This is the Right Take Report, and we are back for another video. Elon Musk is under fire again. Who would have thought? But is the criticism fair, or is it just another media hit job on this guy? Today we're going to break down the CNN debate, the outrage, and what's really at stake with DOGE when it comes to cutting government waste.
Yeah, y'all gotta bench Elon, man. Y'all gonna have to bench Elon. Elon is not gonna be long for this world as a major American political figure. I watched his interview with Fox. He said, during the interview, he said, I don't know why I have to do this. He's annoyed at the perch that he is on right now and the way he's being perceived. He's opened himself up to a level of scrutiny that I don't think that he's gonna be able to bear. I don't think so.
Well, his companies are certainly having a hard time.
Well, listen, I don't think we're going to have to pass the hat for Elon Musk. The guy's worth $300 billion. Do the math. If he put his money in tax-free government bonds, he would get $15 billion a year without touching the principal. So these setbacks that people are so concerned about, I wouldn't worry about it. I think it's patriotic what he's doing. I think that he's a disruptor. I think he is looking for fraud, corruption, and waste. And you know what? If we find fraud, corruption, and waste and we end it, then we have more money for hospitals. We have more money for education. We have more money for infrastructure. Is that a bad thing?
Saying that Elon Musk, the absolute richest man in the world, who worked 16-hour plus days to build Tesla, a mega giant of a company, can't handle pressure is absurd. It makes no logical sense. What Elon likely means when he's talking is that he cannot believe the level of transformation needed to fix our country and the amount of absolute wasteful spending. It's not hard to see that cutting costs within the government is essential. As a taxpayer myself, it's honestly offensive how much money has been wasted in the last 4 years, let alone 8 years. Yet CNN anchors and career politicians defend it without a question and want to take him down. Makes no sense.
I'll tell you what
Is
is
that a
not.
bad
I
thing?
wish
I
I'll
wish
tell you
we
what
were
is
actually doing that, but there's
not
actually
bad?
not a lot of
No,
evidence.
I'll tell you what is bad and what is not patriotic is calling Mark Kelly a traitor. He called him a traitor today for having gone and visited Ukraine, which many Republicans and Democrats in Congress and in the Senate have done in the last several years. Mark Kelly is a naval aviator. He flew missions in the Gulf War. He has logged over 5,000 hours flying for the Navy. He then went on to be the pilot for the space shuttle. He serves in Congress. Elon Musk has absolutely no right, who has never served this country, who serves a president who made up a story about bone spurs so he could avoid the draft, has absolutely no right to call Mark Kelly, who is a patriot, who has served this country to the point of risking his life, and calling him a traitor. That is something we should all condemn.
I don't like that kind of language from either side, and it's gotten out of hand. I think that the discourse
All right,
now...
I've had to do this a lot of times on the show, but I guess it's very easy to say either side to every single thing, but in response to what she said, what do you say about what Elon has to say?
Well, first of all, I would never denigrate somebody who served our country and call them a traitor unless I had material evidence that they were actually a traitor. So I think that Elon Musk is not a politician. He's not somebody that is what we would say politically astute. But I think he serves a great purpose in uncovering fraud, corruption, and waste. And I think it's a patriotic act on his part.
Look, I spent 5 years in City Hall working on government efficiency project.
The argument, I think, for Elon Musk is similar to the argument for Donald Trump in 2016. They may say some things incorrectly, but they are not afraid to disrupt a system that needs to be disrupted. They get things wrong, but the net positive impact outweighs any of the negatives. If we're on track to save $1 trillion or even hundreds of billions in a year and actually start tackling this national debt that is crumbling this country, I can accept a few offhanded remarks of which I do not agree with. Especially if this means stopping fraudulent DEI policies in foreign countries with plays and acting shows and taxpayer dollars going wherever USAID decides. Because at the end of the day, I'm all for America first, and that's what every American citizen deserves.
projects. And here's my advice for Elon. It's one thing to talk about efficiency, but what people actually care about, as you know, sir, as a local official, they care about efficacy. So if you look on the DOGE board, it just shows how much they're cutting from the federal government. How about a board that shows how long passport times are taking, that shows how quickly people in the Veterans Affairs are getting their benefits? That's what people actually care about. And if he does that board and shows that he's making progress on that, that's showing that government is actually working for people. I think everyone here can get behind that.
Scott?
I think on the entitlement issue, which you played, the president is in charge. He has made it perfectly clear he is not touching Social Security, Medicare, and even Medicaid, other than to say if there is fraud in any program, he'd like to root out the fraud. That's period. He's the president. The buck stops with the president. He's been clear about that since he started running in 2015.
I mean, Republicans are getting ready to cut a lot from Medicare. In order
Well, you
to
call
make
it cuts. They're calling it could be slowing the growth of the program or rooting out fraud, but that's different than
I mean,
cuts.
well, here's the reason I have a lot.
$880 million worth of fraud.
Yeah, and I have a lot of reason to doubt what you're saying because when
Let me tell you something. There's a huge
hang on a
able-bodied
second.
population in this country that should not be on
Scott,
welfare. That is a true story.
Okay, first of all,
Well, that's
welfare,
actually not true.
Hold on a second. Welfare is not the biggest driver of this, actually. But what I'm saying is that DOGE has put all this money on the board, and they've said, oh, this is waste, fraud, and abuse. And when you really look at it, they're just programs that Elon and the president and random 20-something-year-olds don't like. So when you say fraud and abuse, there's not a lot of evidence.
The first word is usually waste, and they consider it to be waste.
Do you think
But they are
contract?
not actually doing that. When Congress authorizes money for a program or a program is duly authorized, that's not waste, fraud, and abuse. That's just something you don't like.
Abby, everybody wants to find waste, fraud, and abuse until somebody actually does it.
Do you think people?
This
No,
is
it's
the
been done.
problem. This is the problem.
no,
They're actually saying,
wait,
okay,
wait,
maybe this is wasteful.
No, hold on for a second.
And then Washington goes
That's
crazy.
untrue. It's been done. The Clinton administration was able
Okay.
to put together an
30-something years ago?
Right, but the point of it
Y'all
is
keep
the
saying
way
that
that
it's
they.
It's ridiculous to say that DOGE is just calling bills waste because they don't like them. That's a childish argument. When this administration decides to cut something, the Trump administration, it's not about personal preference. It's about numbers and results. Either the policy works and justifies the spending, or it doesn't. And everybody is afraid to look into the government, look behind the curtain, and really see what needs to be cut and what doesn't. We've gone president after president after president where we do not decrease spending. All we do is print money. And if DOGE can come in there and cut some unnecessary programs, it's the right thing to do.
Never happened, and it definitely
It's been done.
happened in
But the way that they went about
bipartisan
it
Let me ask you a question.
was to study it for
Why?
6 months and then to take a longer time to
I know.
understand which government jobs needed to be rooted out. He fired a bunch
I
of
know.
people. He ended with a budget. It's been done. It's just the way that you guys are doing it.
I know.
is
And the way that we're
absurd.
doing it is that you don't want us to do it. In 2019, we spent $4.4 trillion as a government. Last year, we spent $6.2 trillion. The government's gotten more expensive and much larger over the last 5 years. The only question Republicans have is, does it have to be this large and does it have to be this expensive? That's the question. And Elon's finally trying to cut into it, and the Republicans in Congress need to help.
Well, you guys should start it in your own house because your president drove up the deficit as much as anybody ever has, maybe more than anyone.
And why? What happened at the end of Trump?
So then,
Any memory of it?
I do remember. Even before then, though. Even before that, though. Everybody's got Google. So the reality of it is this: if no one that I know is against finding waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. However, the way that you go about doing it, you don't play with Americans' lives, you don't play with their jobs, you don't do things haphazardly where you have to fire people, then
Can you
bring
name
people
one
back.
thing you'd do differently?
One thing I
Like
do
what?
differently?
You say
Oh,
you're
so
for
now you're
waste,
gonna
fraud?
make
No,
you're gonna
I'm
make me in
asking.
charge of those.
No, I'm asking.
Okay.
You say you're against waste, fraud, and abuse. What would you consider the government to do that's wasteful today?
Okay, well then what I would do if I was looking for waste, fraud, and abuse is I would start in the Defense Department and at the Pentagon. I would start with the Defense Industrial Complex of America, and I would look there.
I think
for
Elon
all
and
of
you
the
were in
people-
agreement on that.
Well, he hasn't.
They
So
are.
the question is, when are they going to get around to it?
Because
they're
President already
starting
told
off
them
with
to do it.
firing
Yeah,
park
but Scott,
rangers.
but hold on. One of the other
They already
things,
started looking at
you
the
started
Pentagon.
your comment by saying the president's in charge. He's not going to touch Social Security, and Medicare, and Medicaid. That's where all the money is,
That's
Scott,
true.
which is why
We're fighting
Elon-
over 28%.
No, wait, he said
Okay.
he said he wasn't
Okay.
going to cut entitlements.
No.
They
I'm
are going to
telling
look for
you-
fraud in Medicaid.
Bruce,
They are going to look for
I'm telling
fraud
you
in
what
Medicare.
Scott said. Scott
Okay.
said that he wasn't going to touch it. Elon said correctly, that's where all the money is. So if you guys actually want to produce savings, you are going to have to touch it.
Actually, we started this.
will not cut
We
benefits.
started this
It's a
segment.
different
What
benefits.
point
Wait, we started this segment
is that gonna
talking
be
about the
told to the
fact
American
that the
people?
president's closest aide, the guy who's attached at the hip to him, Elon Musk, called an American hero a traitor today.
Okay, but you said that already.
No, because you haven't
What is
condemned
that?
it.
What is that?
Ana Navarro, I don't even know why she is there. I'm sure she's a good political analyst, but in the midst of a real conversation about budget cuts, I don't understand why she is bringing up this tweet by Elon Musk. Sure, it was wrong, but you have to move on with these types of things and continue to talk about the real problems at hand.
What's that got to
Because
do
that's
with-
what this segment
what
was
is that-
about,
what
actually,
is
and
that-
you haven't
what
condemned
does
it.
that got to
Instead,
do
let's
with
talk
this?
about what this
because
is
you want to
actually
talk
doing.
Hold on
about
a second.
something else
Anna,
instead of
he
condemning
did-
what is
I
condemnable.
will say that Bruce did, well, maybe I shouldn't go so far as to say condemn, but you said that you do not condone
like it.
that kind of
Bruce
language.
basically said chill.
I
So
don't like it.
he did say that, but
Let's talk what this is actually doing. I think the people who are paid to ID bodies of people killed in action who can't work right now are not waste, fraud, and abuse. I think that these kind of things that we're seeing, the people who oversee our nuclear stockpile are not waste, fraud, and abuse. These mistakes can't happen. It's too critical to our
The
country.
veterans who we promised we would protect.
We'll never,
when they
we
came
will
back.
never spend, unless some administration has the guts to see this through, we will never, ever spend less. We will never have a smaller government.
I take
Everything
your point.
has a constituency
I take your
in
point
Washington.
about finding the spending that you want to cut, but I think there's no question, even Republicans agree, and we talked about this last week, this has been done in a haphazard way to the point where the president himself had to hear it from his cabinet secretaries who were asking, what's happening at the VA? Why are you cutting all these people? The transportation secretary said they were trying to cut air traffic controllers.
I hope the cabinet, I hope the cabinet and Elon
they had to speak up
work
because
well together. The
it
cabinet
wasn't
just
being
got
done
there.
well.
But ultimately, this is not a conversation that can be put off forever. And I feel like this is what Washington does. They try to just push it back as far as they.
Here's my final conclusion. What is so wrong with investigating fraud? If fraud is there, cut it out. If it's not, it stays. But the media seems angrier about the fact that someone's even looking into it, rather than focusing on what's actually found. That's the real issue. And yes, as I said before, Elon calling an American hero a traitor was out of line, plain and simple. But as Jennings pointed out, you need guts to make tough cuts, especially when the entire system is comfortable with reckless spending.
They can, and then we'll get the next guy in, and maybe it won't happen. That's how you go from $4.5 trillion to
But
$6.2
Scott,
trillion.
even
we gotta
Republicans
go.
have begun saying that it needs to be a scalpel, not a sledgehammer.
Yes, and
and
as-
it has been a
and as-
sledgehammer.
Thank you for anybody who got through the entirety of it. I am just beginning, and I'm looking forward to every single video getting better. Final thoughts. DOGE is here. It's not going away. Let's run with it. Let's see what it can do. May not do everything perfect, but it can make some good difference. And again, Elon Musk, not the most perfect person, but seems to be the type for the job. Thank you again. See you next time.